welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, Nigerian military killed 22 insurgents in a battle in Lokomani, Borno State, but lose 4 soldiers in the process. Boko Haram's factional leader Ibrahim Shekau claims he's alive in a new video, a claim the military described as mere propaganda. Governor Nasir El-Rufai visits communities recently affected by earth tremor, assures of government's commitments to manage the situation. And the United States ambassador to the United Nations accuses Russia of barbarism, over the bombing of Syrian city of Aleppo. We begin tonight from Borno State in Nigeria's northeast region, where Nigerian troops have suffered another blow with the loss of 4 soldiers during an attack by members of the Boko Haram sect. The attack, which occurred in the early hours of today at Lokomani along Dikwa-Gamboru Road, was carried out using 36 hand grenades and rocket-propelled launchers. Acting spokesman for the Nigerian Army, Colonel Sani Usman, however, said that after the fighting, which lasted over an hour, 22 of the insurgents lost their lives. Colonel Usman said while the troops lost some rifles in the encounter, the troops also recovered 2 AK-47 rifles, 1 FN rifle, 1 G3 rifle, and some hand grenades from the insurgents. The army spokesperson added that 2 soldiers that were wounded in the operation have been evacuated for further medical treatment, while the area has been reinforced with more troops. Meanwhile, the video purported to have been released by a factional leader of the insurgent group Boko Haram has denied earlier claims by the military that he was killed or badly wounded in an airstrike last month. According to the BBC, a man believed to be Shekau appeared healthy in the video, speaking in Arabic, Hausa and Kanuri languages. It's not clear when the video was recorded, but earlier this month, the Islamic State terror group to which Boko Haram has pledged allegiance announced that Shekau had been replaced as leader by Abu Musab al-Banawi. Shekau, however, has challenged the ISIS claims, insisting that he is still in charge. The Nigerian military army has described the video clip released by the so-called Abubakar Shekau as mere propaganda and a sign of desperation. The acting director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sani Usman, says the video has confirmed its earlier suspicion that the purported factional sect leader is mentally ill and unstable. The army also asked the public to ignore the threats and not be bothered by contents of the video clip. Colonel Usman reaffirms the military's resolve to clear out the remnants of the terrorists and rescue all persons held hostage, especially the abducted Chibok schoolgirls. He notes, however, that a window still exists for repentant militants who are willing to lay down their arms and adhere to the rule of law. And away from security issues, the 71st session of the United Nations General Assembly may have come and gone. The deliberations from the meetings are still fresh in the minds of many. For Nigeria, beyond the appearance of the general debate, President Muhammadu Buhari also took time out to meet with other heads of state for bilateral talks. In this report, our presidential correspondent, Chukwuma Onekusi, chronicles Nigeria's participation at the meeting.
At the last count, President Muhammadu Buhari met with at least 9 heads of government from other countries of the world on the sideline of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. 4 bilateral talks that center on collaboration on security issues, the economy, agriculture, trade, and investments. But to many international observers, it is not just about meetings, but what is important is how to begin to walk the talk from such meetings.
Last year, this time around, he did not talk investment. He talked about how the American United Nations will support Nigeria in the issue to fight with Boko Haram. That's what he presented last year. But today, seeing where we are, the president start talking about investors to come to Nigeria and invest because Nigeria is the best place to invest.
For those who may wonder why ministers of agriculture, mines and steel development, environment, interior, trade and investments are on the trip.
For us, it's about developing a mining ecosystem that is sustainable, that is profitable, that is long-term. And mining is not a quick win. Mining is a sector that requires a lot of investment to be put in, particularly in exploration, before you start reaping the benefits.
We met Nigerians who are planning things for home. In fact, it's quite moving that you may see Nigerians abroad who are sometimes almost more patriotic than those of us at home. They are here, their hearts are at home, wherever you meet them. And they raise issues like, why are we buying yams from Ghanaians?
Apart from the climate change issues for which the president signed the pact, Nigeria held talks on sustainable development, just one out of the numerous pacts and declarations Nigeria has to ratify.
What is signed is an intention to be bound by that treaty, is an intention to be that Nigeria is to be part of that convention. But what makes it come into effect and to be lawful and enforceable in Nigeria is it's being assented to, being ratified by the National Assembly.
This is President Buhari's second outing at the United Nations General Assembly. Nigerians will be watching and waiting to see the outcome of the international collaborations. From New York City, Chukwuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
Back home, the Imo State's Governor Rochas Okorocha says he's taken up the challenge of making the oil companies operating in the state accountable to the people. The governor's position is coming against the backdrop of agitations by militants from Ohaji-Egbema and Oguta that the oil companies operating there have neglected their host communities over the years.
Just few days ago, militants from Ohaji-Egbema and Oguta local government areas of Imo State surrendered their weapons as a result of the amnesty granted them by the Imo State government. Major reasons given for their militancy is that of neglect and marginalization by over 7 oil companies operating in their area. This explains why the governor is setting up an amnesty committee to handle the request made by the repentant militants and host communities in the oil-producing area. Governor Rochas Okorocha rules out their mandate, which includes renovation of schools and hospitals, road rehabilitation, and employment opportunities for repentant militants in the state civil service and agencies. He also expresses disappointment over the careless attitude of oil companies towards the plight of the host communities.
We decided to set up a very powerful committee to be headed by no other person than the first lady of Imo State, to ensure that those their needs, which ranges from total neglect and abandonment in the health sector, in the education sector, road infrastructures, and youth empowerment should be addressed with immediate effect.
The chairman of the Amnesty Committee promises that they will ensure that the goals and aims of the committee is achieved within a short period of time. This action by the Imo State government may be a step in the right direction as they move to meet the requests and agitations raised by the repentant militants and host communities. But this peace must be met with truthful commitment for it to last.
There's been an increase in the spate of attacks on military in the past few weeks, even as the military claims it is winning the war on insurgency and terrorism. But the latest spate of attacks has cast some doubts on the claims. Joining us now to discuss the recent loss in the part of the military is retired Army officer Colonel Hassan Standable. You're welcome to the news at 10.
Thank you, Maraj.
So to you, is the military still on top of the security situation in the country?
Well, of course. The military is still very much on top of the situation.
Despite the losses that they have recorded in the past few days?
The level of casualty recorded so far, it's nothing to bother about. I must tell you this, is still within the acceptable level. The military will get worried when casualty level begins to attain 20%. But all what we've been having, I think it's still within an acceptable level.
Well, the military is engaged, of course, with Boko Haram, which brings to mind what President Muhammadu Buhari said at the UN General Assembly when he addressed leaders, and he called out to the UN and requested that they intervene and help with to act as negotiator between the federal government and Boko Haram. What's your take on that?
I mean, it resonates with me comfortably. A very, very credible platform such as the UN to serve as a mediator is fantastic. It shows that we have nothing to hide.
What about the use of local negotiators?
I think the entire process will be driven with enough transparency, so to speak, integrity. If a platform outside Nigeria handles it, a UN platform or the International Red Cross Organization, UNICEF, and so on, MSF, you mention it.
And if Boko Haram rejects the UN negotiator?
Then we ask them to suggest what they want, and we'll see what their suggestion is.
And we have to go with what they want?
If it's a credible organization, we'll go with them. If it's a credible organization, definitely we'll go with them.
There's also the issue of the Niger Delta Avengers who are attacking pipelines again. I like to recall some of the latest kidnap, which happened right just beside us. A few landlords who were taken from the streets as they were out jogging in the morning, and then they said when they came back that they were not the targets of the attacks. And the Niger Delta Avengers have promised to attack pipelines wherever they run across the country. How do we negotiate with these ones? How do we go ahead with talking about peace with these people?
I must be frank with you, Amarachi. I really don't envy government's position right now, as far as the Avengers are concerned. In the first place, I think there are about, my last count gave me about 6 different groups now that are agitating there, and there isn't a common, or let me say, a unified command amongst them that we could say, okay, let's talk with this team. And we have discovered of late that when one group indicates that one so set of elders to serve as our negotiators, you hear another group going against that. Then another group will tell you we want Shoyinka, and so on. So where are we really? You can't say. And besides, I think the groups are even confused. They don't really know what they want because their problems have not yet found a common identity among themselves.
So how will you suggest the government goes about this? How does government wade through the confusion?
Well, I guess that was what informed government's latest platform of Niger Delta Stakeholders Summit. Why government is probably opting for a summit is to see that probably they are able to have an all-inclusive discussion. Because like it is right now, there are some tribes or ethnic groups in, say, Niger Delta, in the Delta State, that are saying, look, these boys don't represent our interests. Okay? If groups are already saying that, I'm beginning to even say, is it because they are carrying arms that you are attending to them? Okay, finish attending to them and let's carry arms. Then we'll see if you would attend to us. It's because the impression being given from what these guys are saying is that, look, must we carry arms to be listened to?
I guess we'll have to leave it there, Colonel Stanlabo. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10.
I appreciate it.
In part 2, after the break, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo urges Nigerians to persevere at his service to mark the country's 56th independence anniversary. Please join us again.